We are live here in New York City taping, and we're actually periscoping over there, whoa, 5 people are listening in. Nice. All right.
Exciting.
Hey, hello, Periscope.
Hello, Periscope.
Yeah. How's everybody doing?
I'm good.
You're good. I'm good. I'm over my cold, which is amazing. It's so great. Health. Oh my God. It's awesome.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, petting my dog here. The Calvin Show, where we create awesome lives and figure out who we are and what we want to do in life. That's it, I guess. And we chill the fuck out.
Always a good thing to do.
Yeah. So what are we doing today, man? Tell me.
So today, we're gonna ask a question from a loyal reader who would like to know a little bit about how Simplero got started. What was the path?
How Simplero got started and what the path was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, so I guess backstory is that I have been a programmer my whole life, right? Since I don't know, since very young, since I could walk or something like that. My parents were programmers. Dad bought me a TRS-80 from Radio Shack back when they existed. I was a little nostalgic to see them go under here recently.
What's a TRS-80? I'm sorry.
It was a computer that the RS was for Radio Shack and the T was for Tandy. So Tandy and Radio Shack teamed up to make a computer. It was one of the first personal, home personal computers that you could buy. It was before the IBM PC. It was before the Commodore 64 and those kinds of computers got popular. And this one, it was like this size box. It was like keyboard and then some gray stuff. And then you hooked it up to your television set. And then you could write programs in BASIC on it. And if you were really fancy, then you could also buy a cassette tape drive, and then you could actually save your programs and your stuff to a cassette tape. Otherwise, they would be gone whenever you turned the computer off. Because it didn't have any floppy drive or hard drive or anything like that, right?
Amazing.
And the cassette tapes were super unreliable, so you couldn't really count on anything serious being stored away there and being able to read it again. So I was programming forever and ever, and still love it, and still program to this day. It's really fun. And then, long story short, I started a software consulting firm, and I got my life basically sucked around when I was 30, 31, 32. Had my first kind of big crisis of meaning of I was certain that I was going to be successful by the age of 30, ridiculously successful, like Bill Gates like success. And by 32, 33, it was pretty obvious it wasn't happening. And so I started to do some coaching, which felt like a cop-out for me. I felt like if you were doing coaching, then if you received counseling, therapy, coaching, it means that you'd failed already, and now you're just trying to pick up the pieces. You'd lost the game.
I have a question about so where do you think that came from?
That's a good question. I think it's just my dad had a skepticism, a dislike to those kinds of things. My mom would be reading Deepak Chopra and Shakti Gawain and Louise Hay and things like that, but she would do it hidden away. She would hide her books. She wouldn't do it openly. So there was this kind of feeling that those things were not, not okay, not acceptable.
Got it.
Yeah. And I just had this idea that you had to do things by yourself. You couldn't get help, really, because it wasn't about, creating things and having a good time. It was all about proving yourself, proving your worth, right? So, which is crazy, which is so crazy. It's really one of the things now. I'm there's nothing to prove. Nobody has anything that they need to prove. Just let go of that idea already, not to your spouse, not to your parents, not to your kids, not to the people around you or anyone else.
Not even yourself.
Not even yourself. No, just be with whatever is, and just it is what it is. I am what I am. So anyway, so I was doing that. So I got into coaching, and then I worked with a spiritual teacher, and then I finally had this epiphany of those two sides of me, that part of me that loves to just make business and make money and make things happen, and it's all very earthly and materialistic and just very concrete and practical and non-emotional in a way, with the other side that's very emotional, that's very, love. And I've always had that side that was like trying to see things from other people's eyes and trying to see beneath whatever's going on to what's really driving people and what is their motivation and why do they say that. And when people weren't communicating, I was like, well, this person says that because they're hurt because this happened, and the other person is not seeing that, and they're not saying it either. And then, this is what's going wrong, and that kind of thing.
Right.
So this like more human spiritual side of like also bigger purpose in life. And I had an aunt who was very spiritual. It was a huge inspiration to me. And so these two sides, I finally saw that they weren't opposites. They weren't in conflict. It wasn't that either you were in business and doing, being an entrepreneur and creating things and making programs, or you were spiritual and following your heart and feeling and in touch with your higher self and your emotional self and all that, that they were really together. And that problems that I'd had in my life, the struggle that I'd had as an entrepreneur was because those were separate. Right. That when you do separate things out like that, well, then you could be doing things that aren't really what's in your heart, that aren't really the things that really make your dick hard, as your dad likes to say, which I've been very inspired by. Yeah. And you try to control things that don't need to be controlled, and like all these bad habits. And so I was doing all of that stuff and it wasn't working. And so I was like, when I finally had this epiphany and it like really landed for me as like a complete system of, always just being in tune with and aligned with what my inner voice is telling me, or what my spirit is wanting, or life wants in this moment for me. And I need to create business that way. And that's the solution to the struggle that I had as an entrepreneur and the struggles that I saw so many other people have as an entrepreneur. So I was like, holy shit, this stuff is big. I need to teach this to somebody. And I was a programmer. At the time, I'd had a software consulting firm, but now I was back to just being a freelance developer. So I was like, no, I need to teach this stuff. So I was like, how do I do that? How do I do a workshop? How do I market a workshop? How do I do these things? I knew nothing about that stuff. So I was like, well, let me figure it out. And so I Googled, and then I found some blog posts, and that very quickly led me to the rabbit hole that's called information marketing. And so I discovered that whole world. At first I was like, because it seemed like such a like make money online scam thing, and all the yellow highlighter and the big red headlines and the ugly graphics and all that shit that just screams, this is so much a scam.
Sleazy.
Exactly. And so, but I was like, all right, fuck it. Let me just give it a go and see what it is. What's the worst that can happen, And then I kind of realized that, this is back in 2008, people like the booming market in this whole, teaching business isn't in doing physical workshops and seminars. It's in doing this stuff online. And online that's the stuff I know. I've been doing web for at that point for over 10 years, so that world I know. And so it's the same now with music. I'm like taking everything, all the skills that I already have, and applying them to this. Right. So I was like, that's cool. So let me sink my teeth into that. It's a thought, something I just lost. The other thing was like in America, there's a huge seminar industry, right?
Yeah.
Seminars and conferences and seminars and workshops and seminars and, all the time there's been this like, people like Tony Robbins and his infomercials and selling cassettes and CDs and all these things. And we don't have that in Denmark. Of course there are seminars and courses and stuff, but not anywhere near the extent that it is over here. And there's not that like tradition and the history of the Zig Ziglars and the like all that stuff. We don't have that at all in the same way. So there's that, you know, discovering that world kind of, but then on top of it, realizing that it was actually moving over to where I already was. So I was like, of course, that's what I'm going to do. So I figured out how to start do this stuff online and put together the websites. And back then, online video was still fairly cumbersome. You could do it, like YouTube was just starting out, and you could do it with Flash, but you had to encode it in the special .flv format and all that stuff. WordPress was not super new, but certainly, you know, not as anywhere near as popular as it is now.
Or probably as functional.
Huh?
Or as you couldn't do as much with it either.
Yeah, but back then it was actually much more useful, I think. Like right now, I think it's a huge bloated mess, and it's so complex and impossible to figure out. Back then, it felt like simple and easy to use. So I got on that stuff, and then started to put together things together with Shopify and WordPress and videos and things like that. Started working with others on their stuff, like hooking up with Sophia Manning, who's like the leading coach educator in Denmark, the one I got educated with, to do some things. And then eventually, it was actually for the thing that we did with her, it was we needed a shopping cart that had some features that what we were using before didn't have. Specifically paying in installments, things like that, and using this special Danish Dankort, which is a cheaper credit card alternative. And so I rolled my own for that. And then we were using Aweber for email, and I hated it. So I was like, how hard can that really be? So I rolled my own newsletter component. And then we were using Ning for membership sites, and we were like, oh, this really sucks. Let me roll my own for membership sites. And so I just, you know, piece by piece, build the pieces that I needed for what I was doing. And then eventually I was like, you know, people started to ask if they could use it too. And I didn't do anything really to promote it. I actually kind of never did much to promote it, honestly. Still not doing it much, really anything to promote it. Wow. But caught on. People liked it. They were telling other people about it. And yeah.
How did you come up with the name?
Originally it was Zen Billing. I wanted the first major information product I made was called Computer Zen. Okay. Because I wanted to teach people how to use computers. The idea was actually how to use computers in general for your business. And to me, the key to anything really, but especially with computers and software, is to approach it in a Zen way. We have 7 listeners, viewers over there. Hi guys. I can't see your comments or anything. Sorry, we don't have this. We'll have to hire someone to look at comments. So Computer Zen, because the key to make it work with computers is that you have to be Zen-like about it. You have to figure out, you know, here's what I want to achieve, but here's what the software and technological possibilities are and limitations. So let me find the most Zen judo way through this to get where I want.
Path of least resistance.
Exactly. If you approach it with here's how I want it, you know, reality be damned, you can waste hours and hours, and you're just tearing your hair out, and you get super frustrated, and it's not going to work. Hi, Dad. Meaning, he was a big inspiration for me because that's precisely how he approaches computers. He has this idea of how he thinks they should be and how the software should be written. And then when the software was written, you know, 20 years ago when him and my mom had a software company, that was way better. And I'm like, sorry, Dad, but that train has left the station. Wow. And that's the way it is now. And neither you nor I can do it with it. I can relate to it. I mean, I feel the same way sometimes, but it doesn't do you any good, right?
Right.
It just, you got to roll with it. So that was the idea of Computer Zen. And so that became Zen Billing, and then it was going to be Zen Learn and Zen other things. And then eventually I got a nice cease and desist letter from the lawyers from Zen Desk saying that I couldn't use Zen in my name. I don't know if they thought they could trademark Zen.
You can't trademark Zen.
Huh?
I'm sure they didn't trademark Zen.
It's because they're about to go public, and I mean, the bullshit part of it was that I know Mikkel, the CEO there. I've known him for I don't know, 18 years or something. We're both from Denmark, and I reached out and said, "Hey, dude, what's this about? Can we just talk about it?" But he didn't want to talk, so I changed the name. So I was already into numerology by then. I was like, you need to just apply numerology to my business as well. So I talked to my numerologist. Her name is Alberte, and she gave me some numbers. Products are much easier than persons and companies to name. You have much more leeway. But she gave me some numbers to hit. Basically, every letter in the alphabet has a value. You add them up, and you do the sum of sums. And then so it needed to be like, she had like 8 different numbers I could hit, 33 and 52 or like whatever, I forget what they are. So I wrote a little thing that would quickly let me type in ideas and get the value and see if it fit, and it would like light up in green if it fit, or red if it didn't. And then I put a button to do a check to see if the .com was available as well. And that was
very clever.
I know that morphed into, I wrote like Anna writing a software that would take, give it a list of like ideas for things that were like, money, cash, simple, teaching, info, like whatever, and different endings, and like, if I, or, whatever endings I could come up with, and mishmash them all together, check them for numerology, and then go out and check if the .com was available. So I coded all of that up to spit out ideas. And it took months and months to come up with that name. And then finally one day, the Simplero just popped into my head. It actually didn't come out of any of these. It just popped into my head, and I was like, I'll be damned if someone's taken that. It's impossible. It just it sounded right. It sounded like not, not fakey, it sounded like solid and proper. Right. And I was like, holy shit, the .com is available. Buy, So it wasn't even one of those like where you have to buy it for $500 or $1,000 or whatever it was, like reserved names, kind of where someone's bought it. It was just free. So I was like, yeah, baby, let's do this. So yeah.
Awesome story.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course. Anything else critical about that stuff? I don't know. It was really like that thing of like, once I knew that my purpose was in this area of spirituality and entrepreneurship, if you will. Things started to, like, I was doing separate things, but they really started to work together as a coherent whole.
Well, and it also seems like really it happened for you once you were able to kind of see yourself clearly, and what is Calvin. Well, how can you combine all of your talents that are uniquely yours, as opposed to like what people told you to do or what you thought you were supposed to do or whatever?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a great confirmation of the fact that that's possible.
Yeah. And it's a great feeling to be doing something where you don't feel like you have to push it, where I remember seeing someone from like an early head of marketing for Skype talk about like really great products aren't things that you need to go out and sell or push. They're more like wildfires that you release on the world. I wouldn't say that Simplero exactly is a wildfire, but it's definitely something that it grows by itself because people talk about it and has that word of mouth factor. And that's a really great feeling and a really great foundation to build on. And it really pays to keep, tweaking or keep looking until you have that going, because it just makes everything easier, right? And also something that's in a growing market and something that your heart is really into. There's like idea, Jonathan Fields talks about the product founder fit as opposed to the product market fit. Something that you really, I think we talked about last time, this idea that like, if this takes 3 times as long or 10 times as long as I think it's going to take, am I still going to pursue this? And if like, you want something where the answer is no, or sorry, is yes. And also, like I'm learning songwriting these days, right? And it's probably the most challenging thing I've ever, put myself up to. It requires everything, like thinking and simplicity and clarity and logic and emotion and, really going deep inside and digging for feelings and for words and all this stuff. But there's this guy, Jason Bloom. I was watching a webinar yesterday, and he says, like, when you're writing a song, like, you need to have a really strong title and concept, especially as a songwriter writing for others. And if this title and concept isn't really, really strong and solid from the start, it's just not worth your time to invest into fleshing out the rest of the song. I mean, you can do it as an exercise, but once you're past the exercise level, then it's just not worth it to go there, because if the title and the concept isn't strong enough, it's never going to be great. Is that kind of idea? It really pays off to invest a little bit more into making sure that this is really it for you.
Yeah, and it seems like just that process of finding clarity is just something not to be ignored.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like going on here. Where are we on time? Should we just end it here and then we'll continue another day?
I think we should it's a good pausing point, and I think we should continue with the next episode.
All right. We need to talk about clarity, because I was just out today looking at venue for SimpleroConf, and it was just an amazing reminder of that, like of the clarity piece. Yeah. And I just wanted one more thing to add about the song title thing, or that idea of the investing into that, that sometimes the way that you realize whether your heart is into it, or whether the title or concept or idea for your product or business is strong, is to sink your teeth into it a little bit, right? And then you need that in order to get a better feel for it. And then, of course, when you get a better feel for it, you're like, yeah, this is fucking amazing. Or you're like, not quite there. Let me step back for a minute and see how I can improve it. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Another episode done and gone.
Good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you out there, and thanks for watching. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the newsletter, add a comment over on the blog, and watch the next episode and give us your questions. And holy shit, I feel like it's a laundry list of things that we are asking people to do.
Chill the fuck out.
All right. Bye, everyone.
See you, man.